Well, I think the concerns raised here are good concerns, and I share a lot of them. There's a few points I wanted to make, and one is I asked to see. I like to try to assess this program to see if it could be effective, and there was nice statistics given, but they were given with no context to interpret.
That's right.
In my opinion, I didn't see what the methods and materials are, the study designs. I don't know how to interpret these things. I don't know if they're applicable. I took the manual for Meet Your Match, and I called some of the shelters that are listed in there. Some of them don't use Meet Your Match. Some of them are selective intake shelters. Some of them euthanize for temperament. You know, these are things that we don't really want to hear that are happening. So, you know, I would wish that should we adopt a program, and should ASPCA be a part of it, maybe we could have more rigorous data collection, or maybe you actually have that data that you just haven't given it to us. I thought I was correct that ASPCA does have its own shelter. Is that right? Yeah. And I didn't see any data from them. So I was wondering if you actually utilize it in your own shelter. There's the question of inadequate staffing. I think that's a reasonable concern. If there were to be a pilot program and it were to be in a shelter where there was a good volunteer staff that would be willing to do the staffing, I think that could be part of the solution. There was a question that volunteers can't make behavioral assessments now, but if were we to have a pilot program and there were to be volunteers involved in it, then they could make those assessments, and that would be an opportunity for them. There was concern that these assessments could be an excuse to kill animals. I think that's a valid concern. I think it actually, I was surprised that it does happen in shelters that are listed by the ASPCA in their literature. But we don't necessarily have to let it happen here. And one thing I like to commend the department and Brenda Barnetta on is that in the short period that I've been a commissioner, she's made it a point to always give data on all animals, not just so-called adoptable animals, every animal. And she doesn't sugarcoat it by calling it euthanasia when it's killing. And I commend her for that. I think that the concerns regarding Riverside are worth considering. I contacted Riverside. I talked to some of the management people there, and they actually liked the program, but couldn't figure out a way to staff it. They said that one person said that their volunteers were not reliable, but I think we're better here. You know, the situation that we have in the shelters, which all you people know better than I do, is not a tenable situation right now. And we need to make some changes. And I think if we had a working committee, a working group to work on this question, maybe other ideas about maybe other types of pilot programs and other shelters could be brought up. And I can say that personally, as a commissioner, I'd be very receptive to hearing what those might be.
I worked as an animal care technician in college for a couple years at the Santa Cruz SPCA before it was torn down in, I think it was early 2000s. Yeah, it's been rebuilt, but and we did behavior assessments, but I think we called them temperament tests. We didn't call them behavior assessments. And it was a very unique shelter in the sense that every morning we discussed each and every animal, how they were assessed, what the plan was, if they were going to go to foster, if they were showed signs of aggression or food aggression or any kind of aggression. We figured out a rehoming plan, a behavior assessment plan for them. I've seen this program in action. I believe it works, and it's already happening right now, just not in a standardized way. And so because it's not happening in a standardized way, I think we should at least try it for a short term, a pilot program as we're calling it, and we can assess the adoption rate prior and we can assess the adoption rate after, and if it does not work, we do not have to continue this program. But I think we at least owe it to the animals to give it a shot. And I'm in full support of this program, and that's all I have to say.
I wrote down so many notes, and they're so haphazard, which tends to mean that I'm conflicted about something when that happens. I commend the department for wanting to try something to help the animals, and I really commend the small army of people who showed up tonight who obviously care a lot about this. It's very inspiring, and I think we all have the same big picture shared goal, which I think is important, and what we're really grappling with is a matter of how to get there. I think the comments that we can't keep the status quo are very well taken, but I also see the concerns that have been raised by so many people about what happens to the 4s and 5s, how are we going to staff this, where are the resources for it. I like the idea of the reassessment option. I hadn't thought of that before. And so I think all of that is to say that at the end of all of this, I come out thinking, what is this pilot program going to look like? And I feel like we just need more information, and a lot of what I'm hearing seems to be fears generated by a lot of unanswered questions, and I have unanswered questions myself. So yeah, I think we need to do something, and we need to figure out together what that is.
Yeah, I have scribbles and notes here and there and little rip-offs in my purse that I was trying to pull out. And I have the same conflicted feelings. I think the thing that sticks in my head the most is that most everyone's seeing, forgive me if I'm hearing this wrong, but there seems to be this either or. Either it's what's happening now or it's this program. And I'd be curious about the one over there, option 3, should we start exploring other possibilities rather than feeling that we're locked in this either-or situation.
Real no-kill.
And I think that, indeed, I love the idea of the matching. I think it's great to have a person walk in, and I like the little private investigator, and I wouldn't really quite know what to call my cats. But they get a 9 at the vet, so that helps. Yeah, but they're a -2 at home. So I do believe that when you're in a different situation than a shelter, you're going to get a different result. I think we are a group of people, however, that know that. We're also talking about members of the public that don't know that. They are, quote, shoppers. They are coming in because they know they're doing a good thing, getting a shelter animal. And we need to do, obviously, what we can to market those animals. And I hate to use that word because they're living beings, but it is what it is. We want to get them out. So I like the idea of exploring, walking the dogs or, spending time with the cat, grooming them, putting those blankets in, making it a good environment. I think that, there are other areas that I'd like to see our resources spent as well. I'm concerned about what's coming in, what we're doing about them coming in, and what we're doing after they leave. I think that we're sort of accepting that reasonable public that comes in, it's almost as though we're accepting that provocation happens. And ironically, the very defense in a dangerous dog case, provocation, is what we're doing to determine their grade in a shelter. And so these are the thoughts that we're pulling on an ear. I've had cases over the years where they'll say, he was aggressive because of this, and some of those things I see in the test. The very things that people have used as a defense for the dog is something that's being used to test in a shelter. So these are my conflicts. These are the things swirling in my head. I'm not giving a final opinion on it. I'm just saying I'd like to consider other options and not kind of be locked into this either or. I think that I definitely agree we need to do something. I think we have a phenomenal staff. I think we've got a great group of volunteers that we are so blessed to have. And I'm just hoping that there could be some sort of roundtable consensus of something else. And if something else doesn't happen, then we come back to the either or, you know, but let's not feel locked into this is where I'm coming from at this point.